I'm going to be talking about pulmonary ventilation. So what is pulmonary ventilation? Pulmonary ventilation is the process of inhaling and exhaling air into our lungs, which is also known as the respiratory cycle. There are two types of respiration. So there's quiet respiration, which is when we're relaxed and we're not thinking about breathing. And then there's forced respiration, which is when we're consciously taking deeper breaths and more muscles are contracted. Also, fun little fact, pulmo derives from the Latin language, which means lung. Muscles of respiratory. So the two main important muscles for the respiratory system is the diaphragm and the intercostal muscles. So the diaphragm is the prime mover, and when in relaxation, it is dome-shaped, positioned upwards against the lungs. And so when it contracts, it is pulled down and flattens out. Then there's internal intercostals. So during exhalation, the muscles contract, bringing the rib cage in and down, reducing volume of the thoracic cavity. Then there's external intercostals, which is on inhalation, they contract and the ribs expand up and out, increasing volume and size of the thoracic cavity. And then scalenes, which is the synergist of the diaphragm, and then there's accessory muscles, which is used for forced respiration. So neural control of breathing. So breathing relies on constant nervous stimulation that occurs in the pons and medulla of the brainstem. The only time breathing would stop is when the nerves in the thoracic muscles or the neck of the spinal cord are cut off. So in the diagram, you'll see in brackets, there's three respiratory centers that communicate with each other to assist with the respiratory rhythm. And so during quiet breathing, inspiratory neurons will fire off from the ventral respiratory group, sending signals down the brainstem, down the spinal cord, to the diaphragm and the intercostal muscles, making them automatically contract. And so when we modify our breathing rate, the dorsal respiratory group comes into play and sends signals to the ventral respiratory group to modify the rhythm. And lastly, for different emotional responses, the pontine respiratory group will act on both respiratory centers in the medulla, and this allows us to be able to adapt our breathing when we laugh or when we cry or when we're sleeping. And mechanisms of respiration. So it's important to note that according to Boyle's law, the pressure of a given amount of gas is inversely proportional to its volume, assuming the temperature remains constant. And so when the volume changes in our lungs, the pressure will also change. So at rest, the atmospheric pressure and intrapulmonary pressure are the same. And then when inspiration occurs, the diaphragm will contract, pulling downwards and flattening out, allowing the thoracic cavity to expand. The intrapulmonary volume then increases from the air flowing in, and at the same time, the intrapulmonary pressure decreases. And then automatically after expiration occurs, the diaphragm rises back up into that dome shape towards the lungs, and so the intrapulmonary pressure will now increase as the intrapulmonary volume decreases. And lastly, I have my references for the content. Thank you.